Hey, good morning from snowy, I repeat, snowy Kansas City, and welcome to SportsBeat Live, the weekly show where we talk Royals with the Kansas City Star reporters and columnists who know them best, and with you. Please send us your questions and comments about the Royals. We'll get to as many of them as we can. Beat writer Lynn Worthy is here today, and so is Frosty the Snowman, Sam Mellinger. Sam, I want you to take this opportunity to defend your love of temperatures that would rival, I don't know, an NBA scoring leader average. Because here we are, temperatures in the low 30s, snow on the ground, and this is your kind of weather, my friend.
It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. I'm going to make some chili, make a fire later. It's great.
It's a good day.
And the roads are not bad either. Like people complaining, like, what are you complaining about? The roads are clear. Stop it. Enjoy it.
Hey, I came downtown today. Roads are fine. Didn't take me any extra time. And I like to. And of course, Lynn being from the Northeast originally, he's laughing at the at the week-long weather forecast predicting what, an inch and a half, 2 inches of snow. That the roads were pretty empty coming downtown this morning.
Yeah, in New England, they don't. This would not count as snow. This is a mere dusting. That's all that is. And I think I saw this morning the National Weather Service said something like today's like 2 something inches is the most daily snowfall we had this year. Which again in New England they laugh at that. That's not snow. That's not.
Can I make a baseball segue?
Sure. Wish you would. But first, before you do, Sam, let me just thank our sponsor, University of Kansas Health System, for their fine work and really appreciate them being on board as a sponsor. So, segue away, Sam.
All right. It is supposed to warm up a little bit later. So I don't know if the game will happen tonight or not. But trivia: who was the Royals' opponent the last time a game was snowed out?
Was it? Oh, hang on. Was it in Kansas City?
Yeah. Royals game in Kansas City.
I will say, because you asked the question the way that you did, and there must be some ha-ha to the answer, I'd say the Rays.
It was the Rays, and it was in May. It was even later in the year than this.
What year was it?
I forgot what year. It would have been 13-ish.
Wow.
Something like that. 12, 13, something like that. But yeah, it was the Rays. Pete Gradoff's got it.
You got it. Nailed it. There you go, Pete.
John Sleezer had the best pictures from before that game, which is like no surprise, but it was great. Like some of the Rays and Royals came out and started playing in the snow. It was great.
I remember that now that you've mentioned it. Lynn, they won't call off tonight's game, will they? Because of the temperature, or I wouldn't think, but
not at this point, I don't think. I mean, yesterday it sounded like there was optimism that they'd be able to play because the snow was gonna stop by the middle of the day. And I was watching MLB Network earlier, and there was an image of people out there already on the field at Kauffman, like just trying to clear it up and trying to make sure they clear out the snow. So I would think they're going to make an attempt to get this in, and I don't see why not, unless it's a lot worse there than what it is in the rest of Kansas City. I would think they're going to make an attempt.
Right. Okay, since the last time we talked, the Royals, I believe, were 4-4, and we were worried about starting pitching at the time. What a difference a week makes. So on the graphic during last night's game, which the Royals lost, of course, 4-1 to the Rays, but there was a graphic at some point during Duffy's performance that the Royals had the second best ERA in the American League among starting pitchers over the past week, and that number, it was 2.46, and that number only decreased after Duffy's performance last night. We ended up taking the loss, but didn't give up an earned run in the 6 innings that he pitched. So interesting, Lynn, that the starting pitching has almost every night, every game, just one good performance after another. What can we say about how the Brady Singers and Brad Kellers and Duffy's have been throwing the ball here in the last week?
Well, this is exactly why, you try and caution people when they see a bad performance. Like, baseball season is too long to start losing it over, Brady Singer not making it through 4 the first time out, or even Brad Keller the first 2 times having rough outings. Because next time around, you see, now all of a sudden the outlook is Junis is giving you 10 innings of, like, I think he's given up 2 runs in his 2 starts when he was supposed to be the bullpen guy. You got Keller in his last start was 5 2/3. I think he gave up 1 run. Singer get through 6 scoreless, and then Duffy has now gone 6 in each of his, and I think his ERA is 0.5. So after a few days, everybody's like, "Oh, the starting pitching is going to be troubled." Pump the brakes, and this is why you pump the brakes, because doing that in the first week of April is just sort of, crazy. Now, I'm not saying that, Danny Duffy is going to win the Cy Young either based off of, 3 starts, but it's just you got to take the big picture view.
Pretty encouraged by Duffy's 3 starts, though, Sam, aren't you?
Yeah. I thought in the broadcast last night, I thought Ryan made a really good point about Duffy, that, he kind of came up as a kind of a wild man, right? Power pitcher, pumping upper 90s, trying to blow guys away. And then at some point he kind of morphed into much more of a finesse guy, sort of what some of us would think of just like a classic, crafty lefty. And now this season, at least, it seems like he's a combination of both. He can get mid 90s, when he needs it. But he's also has a much better feel than he did when he was 22 or whatever, which is obviously understandable about, just how to work hitters and pitch to contact sometimes, but also get a strikeout, when the moment calls for it. Again, like Lynn said, it's only 3 starts, and I would take the over on his 0.50 ERA at the end of the season, but we are seeing like some of his best. This is like the best that Danny has, and it's cool to watch. For those of us like that have kind of seen him develop. From, again, like the guy that would have, he'd go 2 1/3 or whatever and throw 94 pitches, and have, didn't he have like a 35 pitch inning one time early when he first came up? Those days seem to be gone. And he still has that fire, though. This is not like a veteran that's, sort of numb to the emotions of baseball. I mean, we saw that on that comebacker last night, right? That started the double play and then the chest bump. And I think some of that was, I think he was pissed at the umpire. I think he was getting squeezed. That was really bad zone, and I'm sure that was part of it. But it is cool to see. Like, this is part of the cool thing about baseball is you get to see guys develop from young to veteran. It's been nice to see.
We're gonna hear from Duffy here in a moment, but Lynn, I think you're right. I think he was frustrated at Ortiz. It was an interesting strike zone last night, not a great one. It was kind of I know that Soler got rung up early in the game on a ball that looked a good 6 inches off the plate. But what about the other thing I wanted to say about Duffy? One thing that I've noticed about him is his fastball in the strike zone, going to different places in the box. And it's at one point, one of his 8 strikeouts last night was a 96-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle. I mean, there was a time when hitters would have sat on that pitch, but I think he's shown so much control and variety in his pitches that you can stand there and look at a 96-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle and get guys out with it. So I'll tell you what, Beth, let's hear from Danny Duffy. Got his 1,000th career strikeouts against the Rays last night, and was asked how he felt about it.
Did you know that you were near that milestone, and what was your reaction when you did get that strikeout to not only strike out the side, but then achieve that milestone?
Yeah, it's something I knew I was approaching, but I don't really concern myself with that kind of stuff. But when it happened, and when my boys came over and congratulated me, it did mean a lot. Really thankful to be here as long as I have, and really cool deal.
Does it mean anything to you that your 1,000th strikeout comes out a week after Salvi's 1,000th hit as a Royal?
Of course it does. I can't tell you how proud I am of that guy and to be his teammate for as long as I have. And for him to achieve that milestone, that was huge. And for us to be able to get it, I think it was within 5 days, both get to, a pretty solid milestone. That means a lot. It's cool to do that. And with Carlos's 1,000th walk, I mean, goodness gracious, we've had a week. So, yeah, it meant a lot to me.
Well, Danny gave us the opportunity to transition to Salvador Pérez. We'll do that in a moment. But Steve Hogan, thanks Sam for remembering the year of the May snow that everyone in his Tuesday breakfast group was trying to come up with it this morning. Steve, glad you got out to the breakfast group this morning. And Stephen Solomon wants to know about Bobby Witt Jr. updates. We'll get to that as well later in the show. But yeah, as Duffy said, it was this was his 1,000th strikeout milestone week, and last week was Salvador Pérez 1,000th base hit, and that was just the beginning of a great stretch for Salvador Pérez. What a week for the Royals catcher with, not just that, it was on a 4 for, he was 4 for 4 in that game. He ended the game with a very alert defensive play where he threw out a runner at third base who wandered off a little too far on a ball that was in the dirt. He won a game with a walk-off home run. He won another game with a home run late, and just an incredible week for Salvador Pérez. What Lynn, I know you haven't been the beat writer for only a few years now, but this is as good a stretch really as Salvador has had. It seems to me, in the last couple of years, but just kind of a carryover from the way the season ended for him last year.
Yeah, Salvador Pérez is he's pretty good. He's pretty good. I mean, if you look at last year, I think last year the question was how was he going to bounce back, because that was the year coming off of Tommy John. He missed the whole season. Is he going to have a slow start? And then there was the delay because the pandemic and everything, so it was a shorter season. But we saw nothing but good from him really last year. The only thing that sidetracked him last year was he had the eye issue where he literally couldn't see, and he was still taking at bats when he couldn't see. But other than that, he was he's just been nails at the plate, behind the plate, and he carried it over into this year. And for a guy who he's upwards of 30 now, he got that extension, but he doesn't seem like he's taking immediate steps back. Down the line, who knows? I mean, but he seems like he's really still trying to refine his approach at the plate. He still works as hard as ever behind the plate. He's working with the young pitching staff. So I mean, Salvi is he's their guy. I mean, I'm trying to remember who. I think it was Josh Stallmont maybe the other day who said just flat out. He said he's our leader. Like he's like, you guys. You don't even need to ask me about that. He's you can ask a fan; they're going to tell you the same thing I'm going to tell you about just how amazing it is to watch him.
He's the right guy for that role too. You know what I mean? Like because he's a bridge, just that position, right? A bridge between hitters and pitchers, and also like his like sort of salviness. Like a lot of clubhouses, we all know this, are divided between English speakers and Spanish speakers, right? And I think Sal can kind of bridge that gap and bring everybody together. I also wonder, like, this is total 100% armchair psychology and maybe worth nothing, but the Royals paid like objectively too much money in that extension. That they paid upfront before this season, I think, about what Sal maybe could have gotten if he had a huge year and hit the market. And the Royals paid that up front without seeing what he did this season. And there's a chance that when he's 35 and making 23 million or whatever, that they're going to regret that. But I wonder, and this is the armchair psychology part, he seems like the kind of guy that, you worry about some guys when they get paid just going off a cliff, like that. I'm here, Jose Guillen comes to mind a little bit here. I wonder if Sal is like the other way, like if he just feels sort of lifted by the faith and everything else. It's again total armchair psychology, and we'll see. I get that he was great last year too, for 37 games, but it's just something that I've wondered about when in this hot start right after he signed the contract. Just something to keep in mind.
We've talked about it before, but is there an influence, at least at the plate, with the presence of Carlos Santana in the lineup? And the fact that Santana is so good at taking pitchers, pitch selection, and Salvador seems to be a little bit better at that this year.
I mean, I think he had. I'm trying to remember if it was the first. It was within the first maybe 9 games. I think he had as many walks as he had last year, because he had 3 walks last year in 37 games, and he got to that pretty quick this year. Now, he's not exactly going up to every at bat just looking to take pitches. I mean, I think there was times last night where, he's up there and he's swinging the first pitch and he's letting it fly. So he still does that. And it was interesting in spring training. He was talking about how they actually did have him go up there and look to take pitches, at least, to start off in the bat. Like, just to see some pitches, just to get the feel of not going up there and just swinging right away. And I think Santana helps with that somewhat, but I think it's also just the coaches getting in his ear and him being at an age where he's more receptive to those ideas and willing to, maybe take a little step back in terms of the way he's gone up there at the plate in past years. So I think it's Pedro Grafal, it's Terry Bradshaw, it's Mike Tozar, it's John Mabry. I think it's all that, plus guys like Santana, and just being at the right spot in his career where he's willing to be like, okay, maybe I should, be more mindful. And I think he's even said that before. There's a lot of times where he didn't necessarily pay as much attention to the scouting reports or trying to think through at bats, whereas now he's really trying to I guess dive into that mental side of the taking each at bat.
It's interesting about Sal when you watch him at the plate this year, because if you look at the pitches per plate appearance, it's basically the same as it's been for him the last few years. His chase rate is a little bit down, just a little bit, at least so far this season. But it does, like, what I think, just to maybe underline what Lynn just said, it seems like there's more of an idea of what he's doing. It just seems like there's more of a, I don't want this to sound insulting of what he has been, in his 20s or whatever, just more of a thoughtful approach to the plate appearance. It's just, that's what it looks like when you watch him. And it helps when you're hitting the snot out of it, right? Like, they pitch you differently. And, if you're the pitcher, National League pitcher going up there, you're going to get pitched differently than Carlos Santana, but it does seem like he's got a little bit different approach though.
Yeah, I think he's got more of a plan at the plate. At least that's from what he's said. It just seems like it. And that doesn't mean that he's not swinging early. I mean, I think the other day, the home run that he hit on Sunday, I mean, he went up there with a plan at the plate and he swung first pitch and he knocked it out the dang park into the fountains. I mean, and you saw, just looking at that inning, I mean, Santana went up there, swung first pitch. Then Salvi went up there, swung first pitch, hits it into the fountains. Soler came up after him, swung first pitch, and hit a double. I mean, so it's swinging first pitch doesn't mean that he doesn't have a plan. That was the plan. Because that was the question I asked afterwards. I said, so were you looking for a location or were you looking for a pitch? Because you swung first pitch, and he said he was looking for the sinker, and if he got it, somewhat up, and he got a good look at it, he was going to go after it. And so that, again, plan at the plate doesn't mean that he's taking pitches. It means that he knows what he's looking for. And even, also keep in mind that, I think it was Brady Singer the other day, hitting is freaking hard. So even if you got a plan at the plate, doesn't mean you're going to be able to execute it.
The walk-off home run, which was the third of his career, was, jump out of your seat moment for the Royals. But the home run on Sunday, I think, was just as satisfying because it came. Was it in the 7th or the 8th? I can't remember exactly. Maybe in the 7th.
I believe that one.
Didn't the Jays have two more at bats after that? But the reason I bring that up is that was the game where the Royals had left the bases loaded in the first, and had eight runners left in the first 3 innings. Nothing. They could not get a big hit in that game until Salvador came up and hit a mistake and drove it into the fountain. So it's like the Royals are having they're getting a great pitching performance, but I think that was Singer's day, and he basically rescues them from that. I just thought that's. As dramatic as the walk-off was, just to save the Royals on that day as well was just as significant to me. So
it left a small village on the base path. Yep. Yeah. It was, I think it was 13 in the game, I want to say, if I remember correctly. But it was bases loaded in the first and second innings of that game. Yeah, they just couldn't come through with a hit, and then Salvy comes through with the hit.
I was starting to think about this too. The Royals are like, they're not the Dodgers, right? Like the Dodgers are just a freaking juggernaut. But the Royals, like we talk a lot during football season about, teams needing to play like complementary football, right? Like coaches talk about that all the time. I feel like the Royals, if they're going to do this and stay in it and be in the playoffs, be that kind of team, they're going to need to play like complementary baseball. And they're going to need moments like that you just described, Blair. And they're going to need, the rotation to go at least 6 or 7 or whatever to not burn out the bullpen. And they're going to need, the bullpen to keep things close. Maybe the offense to score a lot so they can use, sort of the bottom of the depth chart in the bullpen on some nights to keep Stomont and Zimmer and Holland and those guys fresh. I mean, they're going to need little moments like that. And Sal, like we've been saying, Sal's provided like 10 of them in the last week.
And yet could not get AL Player of the Week.
Yeah, he threw no hitters, which was turns out to be.
That's right. He was tied for second among those who didn't throw no hitters last week, and the guy who did was the AL Player of the Week, Carlos Rondon. So, and yes, the Royals aren't the Dodgers, and yet they join the Dodgers as the only teams in baseball to not lose a series this season. That's pretty impressive. We were able to ask a member of the Royals ownership group this week about the Royals, and let's hear what one of the co-owners of the Royals had to say about his team this week.
Patrick, I just wanted to know how much enjoyment are you getting out of the Royals these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have like the best record in the AL right now. I know it's by a couple of percentage points, but to see that them starting off so hot and really getting contributions from everybody on the team, that's gives me optimism of having a great run, and it's carried over from spring training, and hopefully will carry through the rest of the season.
So Patrick's on board. No longer the best record in the AL. Did they ever have it even by percentage points? I think
by percentage points they had it.
Okay. I think they're third now, just based on the loss last night. And of course, it's ridiculously early. What are they? 9-6 is the record now. So, but good enough to lead the AL Central by a game. And tonight will be game number 16, which means 10% of the season, right? And even if they lose tonight, there'll be 2 games over 500, 10% of the season. You add that up through the year, that gives you 20 games over 500 for a season. Not a bad record. 91 and 71. That'll get you in the playoffs, I think, especially if this is an extra playoff berth year in baseball. So no, things are going good. But this brings me to Sam. I love the note that you had in the Mellinger Minutes. The Royals are playing well, and yet we can go down their lineup and assign to a list players who are underperforming and players who are overperforming based on expectation. And the underperforming list, I think, is a little longer than the overperforming list. Tell us about those lists.
Yeah, I mean, I think by far, like the only guy, I don't know, maybe we can nitpick about, Salvador Pérez having a 944 OPS or whatever, but really the only guy that is like significantly overperforming, a fair expectation is Danny Duffy. And I think it's fair to expect him to be really good, but just, like we said, not a 0.50 ERA. But if you look at, I've just got the stats in front of me right here. Brad Keller, he was much better in the last one. I think he'll be good going forward, but, that's 2 out of his 3 starts have been atrocious. Mike Minor has not been, what they expected. I'm just going down here. Do you want to say Nicky Lopez? I mean, he's basically been a league average hitter. Is that overperforming? I don't think significantly. Hanser Alberto has not been hitting. Benintendi hasn't been hitting. Jorge Soler hasn't been hitting. Hunter Dozier has a 167 slugging percentage. Mondesi, has not played yet. So, they've got they're 9-6, right? Is that what we just said? And
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of guys who, there's some stuff that they've got a lot of guys that can provide more than what they've been providing so far. I think that, to me, if you're going to be optimistic about the rest of the season, I think that's, probably that's where I would start. Is that they're 9-6 right now, and they've not been playing as well as they should. Now they need to play better because their run differential is even, which is, history will tell you is a 500 club. So if they want to be in the playoffs, they've got to play a little bit better, but they've got the guys to do it. And they've got more depth on guys that just aren't on the big league roster, right? Like all these pitching prospects and everything else. So they're in a pretty good spot.
So, Lynn, that was maybe a little bit reflected in the batting order yesterday. It got shaken up a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah. He went with Santana in the 2 spot, dropped Benintendi down. And part of that, I think, was seeing another lefty, and they're in a stretch where it's just lefty after lefty after lefty, because Toronto threw all lefties just about. I think the doubleheader day switched it up a little bit, but they were going to go all lefties in that series, and then got a lefty again yesterday. So that caused part of it, but also part of it, I think, is just Benny has been scuffling a little bit, and Matheny talked about it last year. Like we saw it when he put Soler in the 2 spot. Like that's a spot in the order where if you've got a guy that you feel like you want to get more at bats because he's going to be productive or he's going to get on base, Matheny will do that. We saw where he had switched, flip-flopped, Sal and Carlos in the series before. So yeah, he'll tinker with that lineup and he'll make some changes. Again, like I said, part of it's the left-handers, but the offense is not clicked, like the way. Remember, again, this is that early season thing, because after the first 3 games, this was murderer's row, scoring double-digit runs, and so and then that sort of came back to earth. So, but yeah, like Sam said, it's just you got a lot of guys who haven't done it yet. The one that I guess it's interesting because, like you said, Nicky maybe is a league average hitter, but it wasn't too long ago that people were ready to just get rid of him. Like the fans were ready to send him on the first thing smoking out of town. And now, between his playing shortstop and the fact that he is, at least a serviceable at bat, that's been key for them in a lot of games.
And Flannery says they're in great shape. I'm looking forward to the rest of the freaking season. Heck yeah. It certainly has been fun. I think we talked about this before the season started. One of something I'll be looking forward to is have my fingers crossed about would be not getting off to those atrocious starts in April where they're just buried after a couple of weeks, and it's you're just wondering what the promotions are in the summer because whose bobblehead's coming up this week to plan your Royals trip, but that's certainly not the case. And one little note we should mention, I didn't realize this until I started reading it in the Royals notes on a daily basis. The Royals have by far the longest streak in baseball when it comes to holding leads after 7 innings. What is it, Lynn? Is it up to over 50 now, or?
It's over 50, and I don't want to give the wrong number, but I think it's over 50. And I'm trying to remember what it was, but yeah, it's over 50. It's and that's not to say that they like they may have given up leads, but then still won the game or won an extra inning. So it's not like if you get to the 7th, it's over. Just pack it in. But they find a way when they get to that point. They usually find a way, or they have during the streak, to come out with the win. So yeah, it's and you think about that's been a lot of different dudes too. Just when you think about like the stretch that has gone, but then also just the way the last couple of years they've used different guys in different roles. I think we talked about it I think it was for last week that even this year in the first 7 wins you had 5 different guys collect saves. I mean, like that's it's different people, and then if you go back to past years and the different cast of characters, I mean, like there's that run that Ian Kennedy had where he had 30 saves. I mean, like that's all of that is part of this streak.
Okay, I want to get into the bullpen in a bigger way on a subsequent show, but let's begin to wind it down by returning to Stephen Solomon's questions. Any Bobby Witt Jr. updates, and while we're at it, just stretching it out to the alternate site updates. What do we know? What any news to come out of Northwest Arkansas?
As far as I know, just the fact that they're playing games inter squad, but as well as there've been some games with other alternate site teams, and then also the spring training games for the minor leaguers have started. Not the alternate site group, but the group that's going to be that started minor league camp after big league camp. That group is also playing minor league games too. So you'll see sometimes online lineups that have different minor leaguers, whether that's Asa Lacey or Daniel Lynch highlights from alternate site. Like that stuff's going on. So they're not in the middle. They're not just off in nowhere. They're actually playing. They're staying sharp. Guys have come up from the alternate site, like Tyler Zuber, who pitched last night, pitched over this weekend. So that is rolling. But I mean, I don't think there's anything significant as far as I don't think because somebody had a great at bat in the alternate site that he's going to be in Kansas City tomorrow. I don't see that happening. But they're there, staying ready, and they're still options.
Well, I've got to tell you, if I see a great at bat on Twitter or something, they better be up here the next day. That's just how it works these days. Oh, man. Okay, guys. Hey, I really appreciate the conversation, and we will do it again next week. Thanks to Beth Welsh for producing, and again to the University of Kansas Health System for sponsoring this show. So until next week, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.